What's up, strength fans? Tyler Harnett with MetalPerformance.ca coming at you with a really special interview today. I'm here with three-time national champion in Olympic weightlifting, Dave Samayoa. Dave's a beast and has come on. He lives in the Regina area, so we've kind of come to an agreement with a sponsorship for him. So he's come on as a sponsored medal athlete. And one of his roles will be to bring a little bit of content to you guys on how to increase your Olympic weightlifting, which is something that I can't bring you. So Dave's been a part of Team Canada 8 times. He's currently training for the Panamera Championships in 2019. And thanks so much for doing this, Dave. I really appreciate it. We've had a really good growth success with strongman and strongwomen. We've grown lots of powerlifters. And Olympic weightlifting in the last year has grown. I mean, we used to only have 2, and I think now we've got about 11 or so. And so having guys like you around is great for us, and we really appreciate it. So just a quick note to the audience out there. Why we're doing this is selfish. I want to bring good content to you guys, but I want to do this for myself as well. I've been lifting weights for 23 years, and I was so excited to get to sit down with a guy like this who's been to the top of the mountain. I know I'm going to learn a lot. I have my pen and paper here for a reason. I'm going to be taking notes. I'm going to pick his brain about everything from training to nutrition. So I suggest you guys really pay attention. Turn your phones off unless this is how you're watching it, and just get your pen and paper out or get your notepad in your phone if you have to use it. And I've talked to Dave before, so I know he's got tons of great knowledge. He's a very cerebral type of guy. He likes to think about what he's doing. So I'm really excited to bring this to you. So first question for you is, how did you get started in weightlifting?
Well, my dad used to compete. My dad was Guatemala national champion for many years, and he immigrated to Canada in '91. I was born in '92. Once they were settled, he started training again, and he also started training my 2 older sisters, Veronica and Claudia. My brother and I would go to the gym with them, and usually my brother and I would just kind of hang out in the back. And as we got older, we both wanted to start lifting. My brother started before I started, and when I was about 9 years old, my dad finally let me start training. So started on just technique with the bar and broomstick, and over the years started adding more weights, getting more into a strength focus.
Nice. So you mentioned the bar and the broomstick. So is that something that goes on quite a bit in beginner weightlifters? Like, I hear stories that some coaches won't let their lifters touch a barbell for months. Is that something your dad had you do, or?
Yeah. I wanted to lift weights as soon as possible. Yeah. So obviously, I'm sure I frustrated him always trying to load on some weight and do it with horrible technique, but when he wasn't looking. But yeah, it's really important just to focus on technique. You got to understand how your body moves. It takes a lot of coordination. Some people don't realize. Yeah. So start with the broom and the bar, light weights, just to really focus on how your body moves around.
And you started at 9 years old.
I was 9 when I first touched the bar. Yeah. But I really didn't start training until I was about 17. So 17. I guess what I mean is training with intention.
Yeah. Was that around the same time that you competed the first time, 17?
No, I competed when I was 9.
You competed when you were 9 too?
I competed when I was 9 too.
Wow.
Yeah. But at that time it was more something I did to feel like I was a part of the family, because it was my brothers, my sisters, my dad were all doing it.
A family affair.
Yeah.
That's really cool, really interesting. Yeah. So I hear stories that some of the best Olympic weightlifters started when they're really young, and it's not impossible, but pretty hard for you to make significant progress when you're older due to your speed sort of slowing down as you get a bit older. Do you agree with that sentiment, or do you sort of see from your experience any difference in that?
Well, starting young it's gonna bring a lot better weightlifters. It's gonna make a better athlete. Yeah, just having the experience and the time. You have such a head start on everyone else if you're starting at a young age. Yeah. But it's not impossible at a later age. Like, if you look at some of the top American weightlifters right now, they're coming from other sports. Like they come from gymnastics or powerlifting or some other sports that are doing really well.
Too, I think, is
CrossFit. Yeah.
That some of them get involved to maybe get fit, and they find that they really resonate with snatching and clean and jerking, and then voila, they're competing in Olympic weightlifting. I think that's something that CrossFit's done very well to expose to a bigger audience and stuff. So
yeah, definitely.
Well, that's really interesting. But so for you older lifters out there is hope.
There's hope. Yes.
If you are getting into Olympic weightlifting, later. I mean, I've seen it. It doesn't. Maybe they're not going to be world champions, but certainly they can make significant progress starting later in life. You would agree?
I would agree, yeah, for sure, for sure. Like, I mean, world champions, you are up against people who are starting when they're young, I mean, like 8, 9 years old.
You hear about like Chinese and Russian and sort of Eastern Bloc European countries that have these programs, you know, where Canadians are playing hockey and Americans are playing, you know, football. Their weightlifting is starting really young. Yeah,
for sure. They get scouted at a young age. They enter these sports schools, and their job is basically to train. Right. They have paid coaches whose job it is to make world champions, so it's hard to compete with that.
But maybe the tide is turning in North America with how much more, I don't know, I mean, I see it as much more popular these days, and maybe we'll see that trend kind of curb here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Cool. So now you're 26, we fast forward from 9 to 26. Why do you compete in weightlifting? Is is it like a passion that you love, or to fulfill some familial duty? I know you have a family of weightlifters. Do you have like a reason why?
Biggest reason is I'm not done yet. I know I can still get better. So I don't want to leave anything on the table. I mean, I'm going to keep training, keep competing until I know I can't get any better, really.
Yeah. Awesome.
So that's the main reason. The other reason is to help pave the way for the next generation of weightlifters. Like, weightlifting's not that, I mean, it's starting to get more popular, but it's not a very well-funded sport in Canada. Yeah. So to get some more funding, more exposure, we need more successful weightlifters.
Yeah.
So one of my goals is to just keep making these world teams, get a few international medals, and hopefully bring some more exposure to weightlifting, so we can get some more funding for the next generation.
That's awesome. So that's something that really sounds like it really drives you to continue to grow the sport, and that's a huge reason why we want to partner with guys like you. We have a big passion for strength sports and all of them, and wouldn't it be awesome one day, you know, as you kind of touched on, that a young kid could just weightlift in Canada. You know, I know there's stipends and things like that in place, but I don't know the ins and outs of them. The Canadian weightlifting team, if you make Team Canada, is there anything that comes with that right now, or?
There's an athletes assistance program, or carding, for the top lifters. Right now there's 6 spots for men and women. Yeah. So it could mean some years it could be 4 women, 2 men. It's not. It's just depending on how you rank, and there's ways that they try and rank everyone fairly, but 6 spots for all of Canada, it's really tough to get on.
I bet, only so much to go around.
Yeah.
So having guys like you that are really trying to push that and you know, open up a lot of eyes to people with money, hopefully, or even the government, I think that's great, and I applaud you for that big time. So you're a 3-time national champ. I was wondering if you wouldn't tell all of us about your very first comp. We just learned he was 9 years old. Maybe your first nationals and your first win. We can kind of go into those each. So you're 9 years old, you're competing. What do you remember about that day? Your pops is probably fired up, I bet, and your brother, and that's awesome.
Yeah, we all competed. My sisters, my brother, and I'm pretty sure my dad even competed that day.
Was that here in your hometown?
That would have been in Prince Albert.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was in Prince Albert. And that day, I got my first pair of weightlifting shoes.
Really? That's awesome.
The president of the Sask Weightlifting Association had a pair of shoes that fit me, so I got to try them out for the first time at my first competition.
Sweet. Did they make a difference at all, or do you remember?
At that time, I can't remember. I just remember thinking that it was really cool. That I felt more professional just having a pair of these clunky wooden shoes with a wooden heel.
Sweet.
But I wasn't lifting heavy weights. I mean, I would have had lifted maybe the bar in my first attempt, and then maybe 20 kilos my first attempt. Yeah. Maybe 25 my second attempt. Like pretty light weights. Yeah. But I did go 6 for 6. So that's really the goal when you're young, is to make all your lifts and try and get some more confidence.
That's a great point, you guys out there, powerlifters and weightlifters. What did you say? Go 6 for 6. Go 9 for 9, powerlifters. You know, PRs and records are great, but just make lifts. Yeah. Awesome. Do you remember, were there any other 9-year-olds or young lifters that day? Or?
No, my brother would have been 12.
Yeah. He's 12?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So we were the 2 young ones.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. So fast forward a little while later, what year was your first nationals? Do you remember?
My first nationals would have been 2011.
Yeah.
And it was in.
So you'd have been like 19?
Yeah,
Ish?
yeah, 19.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it was in just outside Montreal. At that point, I was the only qualified lifter from Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty big deal for me
That's
to
cool. Yeah.
to qualify. We actually used to have a program where if you're a certain age, if you're young and you're close to qualifying, Sask Weightlifting will still send you even though you're unqualified.
Okay. Just they want more lifters there, I guess.
Yeah. But so I was pretty proud. I didn't ever go to nationals unqualified. I qualified for my first nationals. At that point, I thought it was a pretty big deal just to see some other top lifters in Canada lifting, a couple Olympians at that point.
Well, there's Olympians too.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. You obviously learn a lot the first time you go to a big meet like that. Any takeaways from that one that come to mind? Or like I found the first time I ever went to an international powerlifting meet, I felt like a fish out of water. And I fancied myself a bigger guy, and here guys walking around, 350 pounds is making me look like a little pipsqueak. And it really drove me when I got home to train a lot harder. You're 19, you did your first nationals. When did you win your first nationals?
I won my first nationals in 2015. It was in Saskatoon.
Sweet. So close to home.
Yeah. So I was actually coming back from injury. In 2012, I had qualified for Junior Worlds, which would have been my first international competition, but I broke my finger about a month before the competition, so I couldn't compete. I wanted to go so bad. It was in Guatemala, so that's where my family's from.
Yeah.
So I kept training. I ended up hurting my wrist, and it really just set back my training for a while, just letting everything heal up. So I finally was able to get back to normal training in 2013. It took quite a while to get my wrist to feel normal again.
What'd you end up doing to it, if you don't mind me asking?
I didn't ever get a
formal
diagnosis.
Just hurt.
I had a massage therapist tell me I had displaced four bones, but I don't know how well of a diagnosis that is.
Yeah, I mean, weightlifting and wrists it's very hard on your wrists, and I hear that's a pretty common injury in the sport for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And because I'd broken that finger, whenever I do a lift, I was grabbing the bar with a loose grip, so anytime I'd catch the bar, it was a lot of
force.
Yeah.
So you overcome the injury, you go to nationals and you win. What does that sort of feel like? What went through your mind when they said, Dave Samayoa, national champ?
I felt like it was all the years and all the training lead up to that was worth it. Like I needed that little bit of a setback to realize I'm not unstoppable, and
that's great. You learn a lot from injuries and adversity, and some people I seem to think that the first adversity or injury they encounter, if they don't learn for it, they don't ever sort of progress, right? Mm-hmm. But that's really interesting that you mentioned that, because that sort of seems like it kind of shaped part of your career was learning that. Yeah.
For sure, yeah. And it was after that injury that I really started to get into mental training and doing some of the more visualization drills, and it's been a huge part of my competitions. It's being more confident going in. More
confident. I would argue that in all the years I've been lifting weights for 23 years, coaching people for a long part of that is the most underrated part of training out there. You can go online, you can get any training program, you can get any nutrition program at the snap of a finger, but this is a big reason why I want to bring and put people in this chair that have been to the top. I bet you if we interviewed 10 people at the top, they would place that at a very high part of their training protocol, and I'm really glad you mentioned that. So you mentioned visualization. Is there any sort of specific protocols you follow, or something that they could apply to their own training?
For me, I really like I'll visualize myself actually lifting the bar. So like if I was on the platform mode, I'd be looking down, seeing the bar, and just kind of thinking about what's going to be fired as I'm going through the lift, and then also watching myself lift as a third person. So visualizing what it look like from the side or from in front.
So almost like you're creating like a film in your mind of you lifting.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you do both. So you'll picture yourself actually doing it, and then you'll picture yourself watching yourself doing it. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and I'll do it right from warm-ups to whatever weight I want to hit on the competition day.
And so how often would you practice something like that?
Like definitely a few nights a week, if not like daily. I mean, it doesn't take much before bed, just kind of thinking back on what I wanted.
There's like an interesting study on basketball players in the States, and they looked at those that practice an hour a day of free throws and those that practiced an hour, or I think it was even less, and then they had them go home and take a nap and also visualize their progress, and the visualization group just absolutely killed the guys that didn't. So I think there's some real merit to this, and I think people out there struggle to know exactly what to do, and it can honestly be just as simple as he said, you're visualizing, trying to make everything as real in your mind. Maybe you see the refs, giving you the signal down, right? The feeling, and another thing, I don't know if you practice this, but I want to give a bit of advice here, is to not only just practice, what it looks like, but how it feels to actually, for the ref to say good lift or whatnot. I think that's really important too.
Yeah, cool. For sure.
So you win nationals. Let's talk about maybe your first international competition. Where was that? Because you competed for Canada 8 times?
Yeah.
8 times.
Yeah. So my first international competition was the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, Scotland.
Yeah.
That was it's definitely one of my most memorable trips. It was one of the first times that I felt like I actually made it as a weightlifter.
Yeah. And how old are you in Glasgow?
I would have been 22.
22. So 9 years old, first contest.
Yeah.
And 22, first international. So 13 years. And, there's a lot of flash in the pan types I find in strength sports. And there's a lot of comparing that goes on. I talk to a lot of beginner lifters, and, a lot of questions that I get asked for powerlifting is like, what's the provincial record, or what's the record? These people that have been lifting weights for 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
But he's here to tell you, top of the mountain type guy, 13 years it took him to get to his first international contest.
Yeah, so, I wasn't a natural athlete, but I stuck through the hard times and
had some adversity with the wrist and
and I loved the sport. I mean, I loved training. It gave me something to focus on, and it was almost like meditation some nights, just knowing going in for these couple hours I'm just gonna focus on training. And
that's awesome.
It's kind of as a good outlet for me.
I agree with you wholeheartedly about meditation, and like that's what training feels like. I think weightlifters and bodybuilders, powerlifters, strength sports, they get sort of a meathead look, but you're training your mind, right? Your nervous system, your brain's just not here. It's in the wires of your nervous system. You're training skills, and if there's one strength sport where skills are most important, I would argue it's Olympic weightlifting, right? And it took you 13 years to hone those skills enough to be able to compete on the international stage. And I hope you guys take home that message that just keep trying. Keep trying different ways of doing things. If you have a bit of adversity, your shoulder's banged up or your wrist is banged up, seek out different ways of doing things, and I'm sure you did some of that too. Yeah. What does a typical training week look like for you? So you mentioned you train about 4 or 5 days a week, I think, before. And
So typical training week, 3 days are focused on lifting. So those are my heavier days. So I'll have a snatch exercise, a clean and jerk exercise, snatch pulls or clean pulls, and then back squats or front squats. And then I have 2 accessory days. So on one accessory day, it's usually just jerks and front squats, or some sort of pressing exercise, and maybe some like bent over rows, some bodybuilding type movements. And then another day, I've recently thrown in over the last 6 months is just a track day. So typically on my Tuesdays, go out to the track and run some sprints.
Okay, and almost like a conditioning, or powerlifters sometimes call it a GPP day or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, you find that helps your recovery, or?
Well, actually, you know what? Yeah, because Tuesdays typically they used to be just another accessory day, so I would be doing some more bodybuilding. By eliminating that extra day and doing the sprints instead, it's easier on the body. Lets me be prepared for that heavier Wednesday again.
You don't find that takes away from your strength, because that's another argument by some people. in strength sports that, you know, conditioning is going to steal your gains, you know, and I think you know, it's important to not, for a lot of you out there, we are strength athletes. We don't want to lose the athlete part of it, right?
Yeah.
But so you don't find it takes from
strength?
It's
just running sprints. Like, I mean, a typical track workout that we would do is warm up with a light jog, and then we'd have maybe 2 or 3 10-meter sprints, 2 or 3 20-meter sprints, maybe a 30-meter, maybe a 50-meter, and that'd be it. And then cool down, so some hip mobility stretches and
How long would it take you overall?
45 minutes.
45 minutes?
Yeah, so pretty short workout. And
brilliant.
I mean, sprint, rest for a few minutes, sprint, rest for a few minutes, so it's
almost like interval training, I guess, right?
Yeah. So we're not really...
Are you going at top speed, or are you pulling back a little bit, or...?
Typically we're going for top speed, but I mean, depending on how you feel that day, maybe just an 80%.
Yeah, that's something that I have done periodically in my training, is what I call tempo, or I don't call it, I didn't invent the name, but tempo sprints. So I don't know if you heard of a track coach named Charlie Francis, but he was a big proponent of this, even for I think he coached Ben Johnson, if I remember right. But he would have his athletes go like 70 or 80%, because at top speed it can increase chances of injury. Now they're sprinters, so they would do this 4 or 5 times a week. So as a weightlifter, a powerlifter, a strongman, you might be able to go to top speed if you're only doing once a week, I think. So yeah, well, that's really interesting. So
I mean, weightlifting's still it's a speed sport.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So just working speed in a different way is
for sure.
Found it helpful and also a bit more relaxing too. Just getting out of the gym for a day and
get your mind.
Yeah,
awesome. How many days a week do you squat?
3 days a week.
3 days
right
a week.
Now. Yeah. I mean, if my focus is more on lifting, I'll squat twice a week.
Yeah.
But over the last about 8 months, I've been focused more on getting my front squats up. So front squat twice a week, back squat once a week.
Okay. And as the competition grows closer, do you periodize your training in any way? Do you pull certain exercises out, or maybe push ones heavier?
Yeah. It gets more specific as I get closer to training. So like my last month of training, full snatch, full clean and jerks, maybe power snatch, power cleans once a week.
Yeah.
But pulls and squats, and my percentages are closer to 85 to 95%, for singles. So I guess as I get closer to competitions, it's just dropping the volume down, raising the intensity up.
Yeah.
So typical periodization.
Awesome. And you're writing your program?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you could go back to a 9-year-old or maybe 12-year-old or 15-year-old Dave, do you have any advice for a younger Dave on training or mental training or anything like that?
Advice for 9-year-old Dave would be patient. And that was a big issue for me. I always wanted to just lift weights, and actually if I was training myself now, I would be implementing more body weight movements, so more jumps, more sprints, just general
fitness.
Yeah, general.
Stuff. Okay.
Some just more GPP.
Yeah. When you're younger.
Yeah.
Well, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
More variety. 15-year-old Dave would be slow down.
Yeah.
At that point, I was wanting to train twice a day, 3 times a day if I could. I mean, I was before school, at lunch, after school. I was wanting to lift, and luckily at that point it didn't cause any injuries.
Just
but
recover. You're like Gumby at that age.
But I mean, probably a lot more work than I needed to be doing at that point.
Yeah.
And 19-year-old, kind of the same idea is less is more.
Oh yeah.
I guess that's what I've realized, especially these last few years, is you don't need to go hard all the time. You can take it easy and still.
That's it continues to be a huge issue now in lifters that we coach. And I like to give an analogy of like growing a tomato plant. I don't know, I can never remember where I got this analogy, but if you and I planted a tomato plant and we see the first leaves sprout out, and we're like, God damn it, we're gonna get some tomatoes. So we run out there and we try to pull that plant out. We're just gonna kill the plant. Well, this happens with lifters' careers, I think. They're on Instagram or they're on YouTube and they're checking out their heroes and they're seeing all these guys cleaning and jerking all this incredible weight. So they're going too heavy, too hard, and they're just killing themselves, you know, and they're not allowing development to happen, right?
For sure. That's a great analogy. I mean, yeah, it takes time.
Yeah.
I mean, to get strong, it's long term. It takes persistence, it takes perseverance.
And not a lot of people have the type of patience that you need. And you mentioned the word confidence. I think that's really important too. You have to have the confidence to know you're putting the right amount of weight on the bar for you at any given moment. You're not doing it based on what your competition's doing. You're having the confidence and the wherewithal to know how to make yourself better. And it's good to have training partners and coaches sort of coach you through this, but until you learn this either the hard way through your injury, your wrist, or others, you know, it's hard to make any real progress, right?
Yeah. Exactly. I love the quote.
Yeah.
Whether you think you can or you can't,
Yes,
you're right.
For sure.
So
yeah.
same with lifting. Like,
yeah, it all starts between your ears.
Yeah,
for sure.
You only have a second to lift that bar from ground overhead. So if there's any doubt, you're not.
Get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of prep and a lot of things outside of the gym must go into reaching the top of the mountain, as I say. Do you follow any type of like structured nutrition programming or anything like that?
Right now, I don't really follow a structured plan. I have in the past. Yeah. Like I guess a few years ago, I did see a dietitian and she wrote a plan. I followed it for a while, but I just realized now I'm comfortable enough that I kind of just eat when I'm hungry. Every now and then I'll log my meals just to see if I'm eating enough, because I find that's the real issue. But
to get enough fuel in, especially when you're training hard and heavy that many times.
Nothing too special. I mean, get enough protein, get enough carbs, eat your veggies. Like, it's not for me. It's, I guess, because I've been focused on it. Well, not really focused, but it's something I paid attention to long enough. It's kind of more second nature. But
it's second nature. So do you feel like it's pretty important to your success, nutrition, I guess?
Yeah, nutrition for sure. And especially now, because they changed their weight classes. So I lifted as a 94 before, but now I'm lifting as an 89. So having to drop the weight a little bit, leading up to competition, if I'm cutting weight, still making sure that I'm eating enough. Yeah.
Do you have any like other? I asked you before if you have any recovery protocols. Is there anything like sauna or massage or anything like that you adhere to?
Yeah, I'm a fan of sauna on off days. I'm just going to sit in 80, 90 degree sauna for 20, 30 minutes. Yeah. Can be relaxing. Massage is great, especially when you have knots or tightness somewhere. I'm a fan of hot yoga. Just on my off days, doing some extra stretching in a hot environment. Just the heat loosens your muscles up, and
like that's like doing yoga in the sauna.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. And you had mentioned that you place some value in like just relaxing. Do you have any relaxing techniques or anything you like to do?
Take naps.
Take naps, midday that's
naps.
Good.
Yeah, try and take a 15 or 20 minute nap if I have the time. Yeah.
Do you place a lot of value in sleep? We had Stan Efferding down here. I don't know if you're aware of him, but he's like a coach to lots of strongmen and powerlifters, and he basically lectured us for an hour on getting our sleep right, and said that is like number one, number two, number three in terms of importance. What he looks at is not only quantity but quality as well. Is that something that you pay attention to?
I've done a bit of reading on sleep, and have a lot of people tell me the importance of sleep. So I can't really go into the science of it, but yeah, I know I definitely feel better when I get a consistent 8 or 9 hours of sleep throughout the week. I do the best I can with my sleep. There are some nights I just get too busy and I settle with 6 or 7 hours. But
it's tough it's a tough thing to manage when you're a busy guy training and stuff like that. But you do see the benefits when you do go up to 8, and I agree for sure. Yep. So you're prepping for Pan Ams. That's your next big contest, but you also have a contest this weekend. When are the Pan American Championships?
So the Pan Ams are in April, the end of April. They're in Guatemala.
Oh, yeah, you had mentioned. Yeah.
And they're another qualifying event for the Olympic Games in 2020. So I'm hoping to do well there. I mean, my training keeps going the way it is. I think a 160 snatch and 188 clean and jerk would be doable.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Olympics, is that? Do you want to share any of your goals? Is that something that you have your eye on, or?
Olympics have always been the goal. Like they're what I mean. I think what most athletes want to train for is the Olympics. It's the top, like the top of the pyramid.
Yeah.
So I was my main goal was the 2016 Olympics. I ended up being the second alternate for that, and actually after that. Yeah. There's a period after that competition where I started to wonder if I could make it another 4 years, but I stuck to it, and time really flies. So looking 2 years ahead, it's still a goal, and I'm gonna do what I can.
Something that drives you. Yeah, that's interesting.
For the next Olympics, it will be it'll be a little more complicated because there's a new qualifying system and the new weight categories. So so there's only. Yeah, we actually have less weight categories in 2020 Olympics. Yeah. And my weight class isn't one of the Olympic categories, so there's going to be some complications there. But
with what you've been through, I'm sure you can do it. Yeah, for sure. Well, my man, I could sit here and talk to you for 5 hours, but I'm sure you have things to do today. I really appreciate you coming. And the very last question I wanted to ask you is, when Dave Samayoa is 60 years old, and looking back on his Olympic weightlifting career, what do you think is going to stand out most to you? Would it be the training or the relationships or the winning? Or I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, when I'm looking back, the big thing is going to be the relationships, like making friends all over Canada, all over the world. Really cool that when you have these bonds with people, you share training. Like not unless you've been through it, you don't understand kind of what someone goes through when they're training for a meet. Like I'm sure you would understand.
Yeah, for sure. There's like a odd camaraderie. You know, even if they're beginners, you know what it takes to get better. Whether you're a beginner or you're advanced, sometimes it comes easier when you're a beginner, but they still got to go through hell, and they still got to beat their bodies up, eat, sleep, and just live, you know, the type of training that you do. So I agree with you. The relationships is what it'll be for me, and, you know, meeting people and learning, and this is a lifelong thing. You know, this guy's been doing this since he's 9 years old, right? So so once again, I really want to thank you for doing this. You know, one day I'd love to do a follow-up. So if there's anybody out there that has a question for Dave, just maybe shoot us a comment down below. And I can't thank you enough for doing this. And to you guys out there, thanks for tuning in.
All right, thanks.